The following program, Know the Cause, is paid for by Mediatrition Incorporated.
This is going to be a great show, and I know that production set it up this way. I'm going to open with MS and fungus. Can you remyelinate the myelin sheath? Can you grow that sheath back over the nerves? There's a drug, folks, that's going to boggle your mind. In the opening of today's show, I'm going to teach you about common, you've heard about it, especially the last few years, that can help doing that. I meet the most fascinating people. Dr. Michelle Lamassa Dawson is talking about recall healing. Did what happened to me 53 years ago in Vietnam, did it somehow impede my brain to work at its brightest and best today? She's talking about that, not my experience, but everybody's experience. After that, Dr. Michael Karlfeldt from the Karlfeldt Center, I think he's out in Idaho. I asked him, because he sees polysymptomatic people, and I said, what typically walks in your front door? What kind of symptoms do you see and what do you tell them? I think you'll enjoy that. Toward the end of the show, I read this book, and this book has a sentence in it that I keep dwelling on. Many of them, actually. One of them is, I give you every green plant that will be yours for food. Why? Here's a medical journal said in April 2013, it has been demonstrated that phenolic, P-H-E-N, phenolic compounds, which all plants have antifungal properties. Do you see the similarities there? That's toward the end of the show. Join me.
For the past 45 years, I have dedicated my life and my whole career to finding the root cause of disease. And I now know with certainty that we must play a role in our own health care. I'm a self-care advocate, and you know what? Every time you change your diet for the better, exercise, or swallow a nutritional supplement, so are you. Now welcome to Know the Cause.
You know, folks, MS is one of those degenerating myelin sheath. God made no mistakes. Covering the nerves in our body, there is a sheath. Something begins eating through that sheath, and you know the rest. You end up with demyelinization, you end up with symptoms and wheelchair life. It's horrible. I wish there was something that could help. Let's talk about MS for the next 5 minutes. Is multiple sclerosis a chronic fungal infection? Dr. Dave Holland and I, you just go to knowthecause.com. In our search engine, type in the words multiple sclerosis. The first article that comes up is entitled, Is MS a chronic mycotoxicosis? In other words, do mycotoxins made by fungus cause MS? The article is over 20 years old and it's more relevant today than it ever was. Now, this was exciting. We were able to help quite a few people with MS by taking an antifungal approach, folks. And neurologists don't know this. But is there other ways to help these patients? Do you see what that is? That's a little box of ivermectin 3 milligram. MS? Walk with me down that aisle. Help for MS patients. Common antiparasitic agent, eases motor symptoms, aids in remyelinization in an MS mouse model. So myelin is the insulation layer or sheath that forms around nerves, and remyelinization is new myelin sheaths are regenerated. This is really exciting, folks, really, really exciting. What was the common antiparasitic agent? It's called ivermectin, the wonder drug from Japan, the human use perspective. Okay, and here's what they said. Isolated in the 1970s, it was quickly discovered to be ideal in combating two of the world's most devastating and disfiguring diseases, which have plagued the world's poor throughout the tropics for centuries. It's now being used free of charge as the sole tool in campaigns to eliminate both diseases globally. You probably read that. It also has been used successfully to overcome several other human diseases, and new uses for it are continually being found. Gee, I thought we had one a few years ago, good results coming in on it, and then poof, it was gone. Well, it must not have worked. What did the study conclude? And here's the quote, but all I want you to do, this is highly technical, look in the middle of the third line down. It says ivermectin, and then look at the last few words. Favors remyelinization in MS, the researchers concluded in English. Ivermectin helps regrow the myelin sheath that surrounds our nerves. Folks, symptoms of any kind we are now learning have a lot to do with fungal mycotoxins. If your doctor was schooled back in the 60s, he may have heard of this. Mycotoxins became a big name. Myco means fungus. In the UK, when President Kennedy was in office, 1960 to 62, they had thousands of turkeys die in the UK. And like normal folks, like what would happen here in the US or any country watching this right now, if people began dying or animals began dying in droves, you'd bring in pathologists, examine the bodies and report on what you saw. And so they did. But then some wise person said, what killed them? The cause is rarely looked at, folks. They look at the pathology. Gee, these turkeys had occluded arteries. They were in pain. They grew lumps throughout. They began bleeding uncontrollably. Gee, it sounds like a cancer, might have been there. Then someone realized where they were getting their food. It was called peanut meal. It was coming from a big company off the coast that was shipping it in. And when they got that new order of peanut meal, all these turkeys died, or the majority of them died. Then doctors began understanding fungus can hurt people. It's more than just vaginal yeast or ringworm or toenail fungus or dandruff. It can really get inside turkeys anyway and cause problems. We're now realizing a half a century later that indeed it does. Remember what happened just last year? Researchers studying cancer tumors found fungus or fungal DNA in 35 different types of cancer. Shh, then it's gone. No more research. That was too much. We have found fungus in the brain of Alzheimer's patients. Shh. Why is it that we suppress information on fungus and yet virus and bacteria are huge deals? We'll cover that later on. Recall healing. No way. That fist fight I had in high school is causing me now to have heart palpitations, but that was 50 years ago. Could it be? Joining me right now is Dr. Michelle Lamassa Dawson, a buddy of mine from way back. Dr. Dawson, good to see you again, and thank you for coming on.
Great to see you. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I love having you on TV, and as does the audience, by the by. Take me back to that scenario. Could a guy who belted me in high school for no apparent reason, could I carry that hurt, that embarrassment, that anger up until I'm 60 years old and the doctor says, you have arrhythmias, you have tachycardia, something's wrong with your heart. Recall healing says, yeah, and it might be, right?
Absolutely. And the way that we look at it, if that trauma big enough that happened then and it kind of imprints in that moment, then at double your age, you can have something similar that feels the same, but it doesn't look exactly the same. And then double your age and double your age all the way through until one day you might have an illness. And that illness is absolutely related to all these other things that you have experienced in your life with brushing those things under the carpet. Keep going. You don't have to look at that. You're not looking at that because you're keeping that stiff upper lip and you're being strong. And I have forgiven them a long time ago, but that trauma has imprinted and repeats over and over again.
And you know what, Dr. Dawson, this is interesting. We are seeing all that play out. I've never seen people punch people in the head and leave them for dead or abuse old men or old women. Idiots in this world today are enabling so many of us to recall that bully in high school. Let's set another example. There are 10-year-old children who can watch this show right now, family friendly, who were 6 when COVID came upon us. A traumatic event. You can't go outside. You're not going to see your friends at school. If you do go outside, you have to wear this mask, etc. Could recall healing play a role in all of that sometime later in this child's life?
Absolutely. And, you know, typically we work with, when children have something come up, we work with the parents. But I also teach children, and especially with this kind of situation, because we're relational beings, and to be made to be isolated and not to connect with anyone absolutely has an impact. It's our territory. We love people. We are relational beings. We weren't meant to be isolated. So that definitely can have an impact. And then that child might feel at 16 or 12 even, that same kind of isolation for a different reason. And so helping that child to, with some mind-body skills, breathing techniques, movement, coloring to process that. The key is to get it out of our tissues so that we give it issue so that it gets out of our tissues.
I like that. Then walk me through the plan, because I notice on your website, by the by, recallhealingusa.com or Soul Tree Transformations, Soul Tree Transformations, plural.com, a lot of information. Walk me through that interview. This is done 90% of the time on the internet, right?
Yes, it is definitely done on the internet. And so the way that it looks is that we do a person's timeline. We look at their family tree, and we look at what's called the project purpose, which is that's time before we're even born into this world. And so all of that, whatever mom and dad are experiencing, whatever has happened in our family tree, that really can play a role in what's going on currently in an individual's body, in their life, and it repeats. And so when you bring into the awareness these aspects, it doesn't have to return as a destiny.
And are there dozens of meetings via Zoom or something? Or how?
So typically I tell people to plan 3 to 6 sessions, and in that time you get the fullness. One workshop is kind of equal to 5 sessions. And so, but when people ask me how long, I find that when people, I usually only work with people about once a month. In the beginning, it might be a little bit more, but I'm teaching the tools so that nobody has to rely on me. A person's life shifts by looking at these tools. It begins to transform in a huge way.
Always so good to have you on board, and I know you're helping a lot of people. Congratulations, and may God continue to bless you. Michelle, great to see you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
I meet the greatest people so you can meet the greatest people. My goal 24 years ago, almost a quarter of a century ago, when I started Know the Cause, was to give you quality information, and I do that through quality doctors. Joining me right now, you may have seen him on this show before, you certainly heard of him, Dr. Michael Karlfeldt, Karlfeldt, the KarlfeldtCenter.com. He's out in Boise, Idaho. Folks, I get interviewed a lot, and Dr. Karlfeldt was gracious enough to interview me on the fungal link to cancer. He's got a big clinic with a lot of doctors out in Boise, and they see a lot of this. Dr. Karlfeldt, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. That's, one of those tricky Swedish last names, Karlfeldt.
Karlfeldt, I know, from Sweden, right? Yeah, I look behind you. That's part of the clinic, right?
This is the IV room that, one of the IV rooms that we have where people can hang out and get good nutrition quickly right in the bloodstream.
How important is that? Let's say you see a patient who's quite ill, stage 4 ill. I love the idea about bypassing the gut. Very often the gut is so bad that bypassing it and putting nutrition directly into their circulatory stream makes sense to me. That's one thing you do, encourage regularity, right? IV nutrition, talk to people about diet. Go over with me the typical person that would fly in from LA to meet you and all the doctors there. What do you do first?
Well, so we offer such a wide variety of different IVs, different treatments, the photodynamic therapy where we introduce light intravenously. And you spoke so elegantly in regards to, when we eat food and we are in bad health, frequently we have all these parasites, fungus, bacteria in the gut, and they actually utilize a lot of the nutrients that we eat for their own benefit. So it's like they get the first pick. So if we can get the nutrients directly into the bloodstream and get that into the cells, we can then turn on the immune system, turn on the mitochondria, turn on detoxification within the cell, and then also start to heal the gut from a cellular level.
Do you have, depending on the depth of the problem of the presenting patient, do you have a protocol, for example, for chronic fatigue syndrome combined with fibromyalgia versus late stage disease? Are there different protocols? Might someone come there and stay a week or stay in a hotel nearby for a month or two while they're trying to prop up their immune system?
So frequently people come here for 2 weeks and they stay either at a VRBO, a hotel. They spend the whole day here getting intensive therapies, whether it is in the different IVs, different stem cells or peptides or PRP or whatever it may be, in order to then kind of enhance the health. But initially we want to make sure that we understand what's going on in the individual. So fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, are we dealing with hormonal dysregulation? Are we dealing with toxicity? Is it Lyme disease that we're looking at? And also thyroid function is a key. How are you able to absorb nutrients? How are you able to detoxify? You got to evaluate all these different things and then tailor the program specifically for that individual. And then people come here and we can hit it from so many different angles all at one time.
Dr. Karlfeldt, is there a better way to treat cancer than our standard of care, which is surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation? Do you believe there's a better way? And wouldn't that be a great name for a book?
It just so happens to be the title of my book. I'm glad you asked. Yeah. So the challenge, obviously, with the cancer therapies that are out there is that they, in addition to destroying the immune system, they are also cancer causing. So to surround that with other type of therapies to calm down cancer stem cells, to activate the immune system, to protect the body from these harmful effects becomes really important. So that was a reason for my book, to do it in a better way than what we've done. And
you can read about this, folks. You don't have to get on an airplane and go get the book, A Better Way to Treat Cancer. It's the Karlfeldt Center, Karlfeldt Center.com to learn more. Sir, God bless you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hi, I'm Dr. Angela Stengler here with Dr. Mark Stengler. We're back for our 1-minute clinical insight segment. Today we're going to be talking about candida and chronic skin conditions.
Did you know a lot of people who have chronic skin conditions such as rashes, eczema, psoriasis, the origins of that are in the gut. When you have candida overgrowth in the gut, it results in an inflammatory response on the skin. In addition, it imbalances the microbiome and the bacteria balance on your skin as well. So these are things natural medicine can help.
So number one, we have to treat the gut. Whatever you're putting in your body is going to affect your skin, so we want to decrease that sugar. In addition, we can use herbs such as berberine, oregano, supplements such as probiotics. Make sure that it is a good quality probiotic. In addition, things like Manuka honey is very helpful if you want to do something soothing, as well as ozonated oils is really helpful. But it's really important to get to the cause of your chronic skin condition.
You know, it was probably 6-7 years ago, the Academy of Complementary and Integrative Medicine, ACIM, and its director, a cardiologist by the name of Dr. Lee Cowden, invited me to speak on nutrition at a big event. And I sat down with Dr. Cowden and I said, what specifically do you have? Well, Doug, you're the fungus guy. Where does it all start? When you take these phytonutrients, plant nutrients in, and it's good for the immune system and it gives a person good health, what's that all about? So here's what I did. I thought this was going to be a 2-month write-up. I thought it was going to take me 2 months. So I knew several phytonutrients, and I wanted to see if they would interfere with the most common types of cancer. Look at this. Here were the 12 randomly chosen phytochemicals: ficitin, resveratrol, curcumin, proanthocyanidin, silmarin, genistein, camptothecin, sulforaphane, indole-3-carbinol, capsaicin, luteolin, and D-limonene. They were studied for their ability to inhibit angiogenesis, or the metastasis of cancer, or a cancer pathway, or induce apoptosis. That means kills the cancer cells in 4 of the leading cancers: colorectal, breast, prostate, and lung. And folks, as luck would have it, all 12 of those, I chose those because I could say them. There's got to be thousands of phytonutrients, but these I knew, and I felt comfortable with it. And so I started with that list of 12. My wife will tell you I had them all lined up, and then I looked for D-limonene. Does it inhibit breast cancer? My gosh, it does. Basically, I had 12 phytonutrients, 4 kinds of cancer, so I had to have 48 graphics to these doctors that show that plant chemicals, phytonutrients, inhibit or stop cancer from spreading. And it was the first 12 I chose. I went on to do that, folks, and I began to realize God made no mistakes. I mean, as I'm doing these major studies, it all boils back to the smallest components. A phytonutrient starts with the seed. What is it in the seed? So I kept doing my work. Specialized phenolic compounds in seeds. Plants produce a huge diversity of specialized metabolites, or SM, throughout their life cycle that play important physiologic and ecologic functions. These SMs can protect plants and their seeds against diseases. Phenolics are abundant and widely distributed in seeds. Phenolics? What's that word, phenolics? So then my work became a little bit deeper, because I had to explain to these doctors what phenolic compounds, you've heard of polyphenols in plants. Many phenolic compounds. A phenol is one, phenolic or polyphenolic compounds are many. So I studied, and here's what I found. The International Journal of Current Science Research, this was in 2015, and I quote, "All plants possess phenolic compounds, but the amount may vary. It has been demonstrated that all phenolic compounds have antifungal properties." Wow. They inhibited the most common kinds of cancer. And I'm telling you this for a couple of reasons. Many of us have visited oncologists. You know, we've had a little cancer cut off us, or one thing or another, or we're told we have a major compound. And then comes that inevitable question to the doctor. Okay, doctor, I hear what you're saying. I'll go ahead and have the Mohs procedure on my ear, or my nose, or my skin. But is there a supplement I could take? Or more importantly, how should I eat? It all comes down, folks, this is biblical. I mean, fungus is talked about in Leviticus. You know, it's so amazing to me that my whole study was based on an Old Testament book. Moses told, the Lord told Moses and Aaron, when you enter the land of Canaan, I'm giving you as your possession. If I put a spreading mildew, a fungus, in a house in that land, you got to call the high priest. You got to get out of that house. Fungus is a big deal. Plants and their seeds have antifungal properties. Not only do they inhibit cancer, my guess as I did my study is they inhibit most all symptoms and illnesses. For that reason, they have antimicrobial and antifungal properties. I hope that helps. Folks, isn't that fascinating? I give you every green plant, phenolic compounds, antimicrobial and antifungal. Okay, that means something to me. Dr. Michelle Lamassa Dawson, I love her work because I'm in the audience. I've introduced her as the MC of some of these events. I've introduced her and then stood in the back, folding my arms, thinking, could something that happened, a traumatic event in your life or my life, have led to who we are today? She's amazing. Followed that with Dr. Mike Karlfeldt. And his center, they're doing such tremendous work. We try and bring you as many people as we can to help educate you. Ivermectin might help grow back the myelin sheath. That's huge. Have you heard of that from anywhere else? I don't think so, folks, and that's sad. God bless you. I hope today's show has helped you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The preceding program, Know the Cause, was paid for by Mediatrition Incorporated.